Tarkov Wipe can be complicated. There's so much information, so many new things to learn, and if that wasn't enough, there's a lot of conflicting advice. So I decided to simplify the most important tidbits to focus on and share it with you here. As is customary, I've saved what I believe to be the most important for last, so be sure to stick around for the best value for your time. Yes, there's a new boss with tripwires, there's Molotovs in development, and various other quality of life changes confirmed. It's not that I don't think these are important, it's just that we won't really know the effect they have on the game until we, well, play it. What is concrete and can be shared with closer accuracy on how it will affect the game is as follows. Number 1. Map-to-map travel is the first on my list because, in my opinion, it may be the only thing on this list that isn't delivered this wipe as BSG promised. However, this has been a particularly long wipe, and they've had an extended period to develop more difficult mechanics such as this. What's been shared with us is a screenshot of what looks like a car extract, which you can use to extract for the cheapest fee, transfer to Streets of Tarkov, which is double, and then, of course, move items to your stash. Moving items to the stash will most likely operate similar to the same function the BTR has, with each item varying in cost based upon the item's value. The connection to another map function is a bit more obscure because we're not sure if that means a fresh raid or we're going to spawn in halfway through a raid like how the scavenging function operates. I'm sure we'll all have to hit the famous loading screen regardless, but how this benefits players remains to be seen. Especially now we'll be hungrier, thirstier, and without much ammunition since we've most likely used some to get to extract. Once it's introduced, I would gather this is going to be very task-oriented, with tasks specifically assigned to using map-to-map travel in order to complete them. I'd even wager we're going to have to complete some map-to-map traveling in order to move through the current task progression. Number 2. Arena. Arena will be a huge component to the way patch 0.15's wipe functions as a whole, but not in the way you might think. Ref is an interesting addition to our trader pool. However, it's not as rewards that will affect early wipe or the subsequent middle of wipe. It's how quickly players can use Arena to level their characters, since leveling inside Arena carries over to your main PvP character in vanilla Tarkov. Aside from the loot you could potentially nab from Ref, the only net gain is the character XP you collect, XP for your skills, and the money you acquire from playing Arena matches. Balancing Arena play with tasking and PvP seems to be the most ideal. I'll most likely use Arena once I reach between levels 10 to 15. At this point in Wipe, I find myself becoming level locked for tasks that require a higher character level. Also, the overpopulation in common areas most of us gather in the attempt to complete the same tasks at the same time will affect this as well. Not only that, staring at my extra loot that I know will sell for a pretty penny, I'll want to use Arena to supplement my leveling progress so I can unlock the flea market faster and maximize my ruble gains. Progressing skills like Vitality will also come in handy since you need Vitality level 3 to upgrade your hideout med station into level 3. For those who don't know, Vitality is only leveled through taking damage throughout the world. No need for barbed wire edging when you can just hash it out with some bullet play in Arena. Number 3. During this current wipe 0.14, they brought about new armor changes that involve new, smaller hitboxes and the armor plate system. Although confusing at first glance, the armor plate system complements Escape from Tarkov's other complicated mechanics like the ammunition structure. Tarkov sets itself apart from other mainstream games by creating these difficult frameworks, which is why most of us keep coming back wipe after wipe. The true challenge for BSG as a developer is balancing, and I think they're one step closer by reverting these armor changes back to the old, larger, more complete hitboxes. It's different enough, yet simple for all of us as players to understand. Better armor and corresponding plates equals more bullet absorption. In order to truly balance the armor changes back to simpler times, an ammunition balance will need to occur to match the armor mechanics. Smaller caliber weapons will not be as effective versus a completely covered thorax, and most of the low-level armors we're given at the start of Wipe will easily absorb them. If no changes occur, well, just remember to aim for the head, or use leg meta with lesser ammunition. A little tip: don't forget to toss aside your gear fear at the start of Wipe. Although it may seem wise to hang on to the better gear you're given, it can also be the reason why you die often at the beginning of Wipe. Good armor and ammunition can end fights quickly when facing early Wipe opponents. By the end of the first week, these items won't be as effective as the majority of players progress into higher tier ammunition and armor very quickly. Use them while they matter. Also, the Cuirasse and Juk Press armors are easily acquired and can offer more protection to the neck hitboxes. This doesn't matter much later in Wipe, but when everyone is attempting to take you down with lower penetration ammo, it can make a huge difference at the start. This applies to helmets too, and if you're able to find a Death Shadow or CQC mask in a random loot box, the advantage you gain from protecting your face is higher now than any other time during Wipe. Number 4 is the new Wishlist function. Now, this is already a function within the game that was added over the past couple of months. Its use case is extremely small at this point in the Wipe, so I know most players have skimmed past this. I personally will be utilizing this function specifically at the start of Wipe. Tarkov is known for its extremely complex looting system that has literally thousands of items you can collect. Players who've been around for a while like myself are used to dedicating a ton of brain bandwidth committing specific items to memory since we know we'll need them in the future. Just because you're not on that specific task doesn't mean you should sell an item. You could need it much sooner than you think as you progress through the task tree. This also applies to items needed to upgrade your hideout and the subsequent crafts that appear after doing so. Knowing what's needed in the future and collecting it can lead to multiple task completions back to back, giving you the edge you need to progress faster than other players so you can unlock better weapons, armor, and win more fights early on. At this point, many of you are thinking, but Nate, I don't need this function because of third-party websites like Tarkov Items Tracker and the various quick guides that you can find when Googling Tarkov Item Tracker. You're right, and if it works for you, then keep it up, sport. I know most of you have 2 to 3 monitors and can keep these guides open at all times for quick reference. However, there's a decent amount of players that don't have this luxury, like myself, who only had 1 monitor for the first 6 to 7-ish wipes that I played. So if you're still alt-tabbing to check your maps and guides, or maybe you have extra monitors and like me, you want to use your brain memory for other things like your kids' birthdays or wedding anniversary. If this is the case, then let me be your guide. First, let's go to our settings menu and choose which items we want automatically wishlisted. Here we can choose to disable it, favorite crafting recipes, hideout zone upgrade items, or both. Note that adding crafting recipes only shows which specific items you've favorited while in your hideout. Basically, you have to click the little heart icon to specify which ones. Or you can choose all hideout zone upgrade items needed, which shows you anything you need to upgrade your hideout nodes like the workbench. I don't mind this function, but it won't show me the items I'll need in the future, which doesn't supply me with the edge I'm looking for. That's where the wishlist item notifications feature comes into play. Here we can specifically pinpoint the exact item we need or will need and put it into a category like task items. In this case, it's for future task items, since if you're on that task, a nifty green checkmark will appear, and if you scroll over it, the specific reason why you need it pops up. So if we combine our third-party item lists for the tasks and hideout needs within this new function, we can construct an easy guide on what to prioritize during raids. So how do we wishlist the items we need if we don't actually have one in the stash or the flea market unlocked? Easy, just head to your handbook tab, search the item, and add it to the wish list here. Unfortunately, if you're new to the game and this is your very first time playing, this doesn't apply to you since you won't have the items unlocked in your handbooks until you identify them. So if you're in that boat and you're really new to the game, don't worry about any of this, because it's probably too overwhelming to learn with every other mechanic in the game. Just do us all experienced Tarkov players a favor and enjoy yourself. Cherish it.
Love of God, cherish it. You gotta cherish it.
If you like the game and continue to play, you'll be chasing the feelings you experience now for years to come. As I hang on to damn near everything, my stash will fill up faster than BSG makes and breaks its promises. Once I get to the point of unmanageability, there's only one thing that will save my soul: the Lucky Scav junk box. You can store virtually anything in this massive storage crate, and buying one as soon as possible has played a large part in my stash management strategy for the last 5+ years. So now that we know which items we need to hang on to, we can quickly eliminate and sell the ones we don't need for the rubles to buy the junk box. It's a long climb to the 1,100,000 needed, but I find the junk box so necessary that I actually spend the first 2,200,000 rubles I collect on 2 of them. Number 5, found in raid. As I said at the beginning of the video, this last change, in my opinion, is the most important. Once we have the flea market unlocked, any item, whether it be found in raid or not, can be sold outright to other players. It used to be that you had to have a found in raid status on an item in order to sell it on the flea market. BSG made these changes halfway through the last wipe at the start of 2024, and they decided to keep it this way due to the positive response from the community. Now, there is a caveat because there's some items that are flea market restricted in order to balance the game properly. These items, like high-tier bullets, you won't find on the flea, and if you try to place it on the market, it won't allow you. If they allowed to trade them freely, these items are game-breaking and would imbalance the game entirely. But I personally believe that these found in raid changes are positive, and here's why. If you died in raid before with something high tier in your secure container, you'd have to settle for crappy trader prices. Now you can sell it for its true value to other players on the flea market at a much higher price. Honestly, any change to the game that outright preserves the longevity of the player base is a good change, and this preserves all of us gamers, big and small. You can also sell gear you find on other players you've bested in combat, making for a much more satisfying experience as you belly crawl your fat ass to extract. Players like myself who don't have a ton of time to play the game can still find a net positive outcome, even if we died during the only 3 raids or so we can fit into one night. Regardless, the game is in beta, and BSG typically rolls things out without much thought because of this. Since we're technically in a testing phase, I've found they shoot off changes first, then ask questions later. So in my opinion, it's doubtful much balancing will occur until after, and everything said here will be 100% spot on. Speaking of found in raid, if you want to know how to exploit this change to make millions once we've all settled into this next wipe, then check out this video here. Until next time.